Thanks for tuning in to more NFL talk on the Our Lads Football Network. Ryan Dunleavy joining me from the New York Post. We have a different strategy that we're going to be starting here as we enter Week 7 in the NFL. Ryan is going to be with me to recap the games in the NFL. We'll get Ryan's picks and my picks later in the week on a different show, but this is a good opportunity to talk about fresh what happened in the NFL each week, Ryan, and something I missed that we weren't able to do this season. We did a lot of last season, and so better time than any to kind of get it started after that wild game last night.
Yeah, obviously what everybody's talking about right now is Sean McDermott's decision to go for it there. I like the decision. I don't love the idea of just a quarterback sneak there. I'd like to see you roll out Josh Allen a little bit, but let's call it what it is. It should be the idea that Josh Allen slipped. I mean, if Josh Allen didn't slip, then maybe he gets the first down.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the problem I have, because I completely agree with you. Here's the problem I have. Let's say Josh Allen doesn't slip, and Josh Allen picks up the first down. Then I'm assuming, I guess, they have one timeout left. They're going to call timeout. So
correct.
Now
so you have 20
there's 10 seconds left? Seconds.
No, it's 20. I think it was 22 seconds when he got stopped. So say he gets it, you get up, say there's 19 seconds left.
Okay, let's say that. Let's see.
Okay.
Let me just want to make sure exactly. Let's see what the timing was on that, because what I didn't like to happen.
I have it in front of me.
21 seconds. Okay.
22.
So Tennessee.
So say he gets. Yeah. So say he gets it.
Okay.
By the time you get up on the pile, I'll say 18 seconds left.
Okay. So 18 seconds left. No timeouts. Okay. So that's going to give them potentially 3 plays, 3 shots at it. Agreed. Correct. 3 shots at the square. Okay. Yeah. But again, no timeouts. So
correct. So you can't have a holding penalty or anything.
Can't have any of that. You also can't get sacked. So Tennessee knows everything you're going to run is going to be quick. Which doesn't mean they can't.
You're going to throw 3 fades, essentially.
Yeah, which doesn't mean they can't score, because Tennessee doesn't have a great defense. So I get all that. But yeah, I just think that when I just think it's too much of a risk. I don't think it's enough of a reward. I see where they're coming from, but I still feel I've got the better team. And maybe what he was concerned with was that nobody's stopping anybody in this game. So if they win the toss, they could probably score a touchdown on their drive.
Derrick Henry's going to just pound it 7 times into field goal range, and you're going to lose.
So that's why I think it's always important we talk about this, why coaches need to understand what's going on in front of them, not my pregame notes, my pregame strategy. No, what is going on right now, because Bills came into this game with 2 shutouts, and this was not that defense. So the fact that he was aware enough of, hey, we're just not stopping them, definitely had to come into that call. But I think we both agree the call itself, I just would rather have seen something else. And not to say I get it, he slept.
I'd like to see him on the move. I'd like to see him on the move with a run pass option around the edge.
Yeah. I mean, you do put Josh Allen, you definitely don't run the ball with a running back. So it's Josh Allen. What does he do best? And give him the opportunity to win the game for you. And it just didn't work out. But again, he slipped, and it happens. It is what it is.
I saw a crazy stat, Greg, that the NFL leader in rushing yards is Derrick Henry. And then who would be second in the NFL in rushing yards? Derrick Henry after contact. He has more yards after contact than any other running back in the league has total.
Yards, yes. It's crazy.
That is unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
And then you see that 3-year stretch that they compared with what's his name? The Hall of Famer from Denver.
Tomlinson? Oh, Terrell Davis?
And it's such a good comparison, because what it does is it says all Derrick Henry has to do is play another couple of years and he's going to the Hall of Fame.
It's a different game, though.
But he's going to the Hall of Fame if he does that.
Huh?
If he finishes that 3-year stretch, plays another couple of years, has another 1,500-yard seasons, 1,300. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I mean, my question is, what was Denver doing what was Tennessee doing in 2016 and 2017 when they had this guy and he was averaging like 4.5 yards a carry and they only gave him the ball? 2016, 110 carries for 490 yards.
Was he their number one back?
2017, 176 carries for 744 yards. What were you doing with him? I mean, I guess it's worked out because he didn't have a lot of mileage on him. He'd probably be finished by now if you beat him up in 16 and 17. So I guess you saved his legs and prolonged his career. But what were you doing? Like, how did you not realize what you had in 16 and 17?
I wonder who the coordinator was at that time. And did they have another running back on the team?
The coordinator was I think it was Terry Robisky in 16, and it was Terry Robisky in 17 under Malarkey.
All right, so there you know. But the other thing, because I agree, because those first 2 years, my feeling was, that's just another Alabama bust running back.
Correct.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
He's Trent Richardson. When really, and what really it was if you just keep feeding him the football, he's going to get better every game and throughout the course of the season.
Correct. So, they didn't know what they had. Yeah.
They just felt, well, he's not gaining enough yards on the initial attempts we're giving him. So that must mean that he's just not really where we want him to be. No, just keep feeding him.
Yeah.
So, but hey, that's been a asset for Mike Vrabel and the new staff, of course, Arthur Smith, and now the new coordinator there. So look, it's a huge win for Tennessee because it is by far the best that they have looked. I think that the other game that they looked this good was really the second half of the Seattle game. Other than that, they have not looked very good this season. But what they were doing in the game was so. The actual game plan of look what happens now when we fake the handoff to Derrick Henry and we get to throw the football to AJ Brown or Julio Jones.
Yep.
And that just opens everything up and makes you realize how dangerous this offense can be. So
absolutely.
We'll see if that continues.
They lost to the Jets. Think about this. The Titans lost to the Jets, but beat the Chiefs. I mean, I can't wrap my head around that. Like,
well, the Titans. I'll tell you this though, and
the Titans beat the Chiefs. The Bills beat the Chiefs. The Bills beat the Chiefs. Let me do this right. Let me get this right. Okay, this is what I can't wrap my head around. The Bills beat the Titans, who beat the Bills.
The Bills didn't beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Bills beat the Titans last night.
No, the Titans beat the Bills.
Why can't I get this right, Greg?
I don't know.
This is. I wrote it. Now I can't say it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Yeah, figure that out. Because what I was going to say was, it's understandable in a way, just because if you watched the Chargers-Baltimore game, which I know you did, that was your game of the week. You were amped for it.
Yeah.
That performance by the Chargers, they also would have lost to the Jets. They were completely flat. They had nothing. And they would have lost to about any team in the NFL on Sunday, which is exactly what happens. Every team has that type of game, and that's what happened to Tennessee with the Jets. So, did you figure it out?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's my connect the dots, Kevin Bacon. The Jets beat the Titans, who beat the Bills, who beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
So the Jets, by lineage here, have beat the two-time defending AFC Chiefs.
Yeah. That doesn't make me feel any better, by the way.
Okay.
So, nice try. But yeah, we'll see how this, because we've also said this the last few years, and this is just a fact in the NFL. It's the same thing in a lot of sports, but definitely the NFL. And that is, you don't really care necessarily what happens and how you're playing early. It matters how you're playing late. And the Tennessee Titans have more than enough time this season to get to play. And maybe this is the game that sparks them where they could play like a Super Bowl team once we get into the playoffs. Because we know before Monday night, they hadn't played anywhere near like that type of team. Boom, one game, and maybe that's a start. So, then there was the other primetime game on Sunday night, and that was the third of 3 overtime games this weekend, with Pittsburgh beating Seattle, and that was a pretty ugly game. Like it figured was decided by a turnover in overtime. Let me ask you this question, because I missed the part of who won the toss. I'm assuming Seattle did in overtime. That's how it worked. Seattle got the toss in overtime. You remember?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a situation that you think that a head coach should kick off now in overtime, knowing that the team needs a touchdown?
Weather. If it's snow, rain, can't move the ball, like 3-3 game, yes. Otherwise, no.
Okay.
No.
So even if another team doesn't look like Pittsburgh, offensively they weren't doing anything. No. You're not going to take the chance that they're going to score a touchdown, and you're not going to get the ball back.
Correct. Okay. No chance. Too much can happen. Your corner can slip. Too much can happen.
Okay.
No.
So tough loss, obviously, for either team, because now that puts Seattle at 2-4, and it does look like with Russell Wilson out. You mentioned this in the beginning of the season, and we kind of talked about it. Even though we believe, all things considered, those 4 teams in the NFC West deserve to be playoff teams on paper if everything was equal. The fact is, injuries happen, and that's usually the deciding factor. It's what happened to the Niners last year, and that's what's happening to Seattle this year, is that they're a playoff caliber team, but injuries have happened, and when the season's over, they are more than likely going to be that team, and maybe San Francisco will also, but they will definitely be that team that ends up on the outside, and it's not because they're not a playoff team. It's just they're the team that didn't have the injury luck this season. So,
correct. And in that division, there's no margin for error. They're especially relying on their quarterback more than most teams. So, it's just what's going to happen. They're a team that if Russell Wilson's healthy week 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever, they'll probably fall short. And you'll say, you know what, Seattle's better than these 2 teams in the playoffs, but too much ground to make up.
Yeah, taking a look at Seattle's schedule, do they have any cupcakes or not? Till Russell, they got one cupcake. That's the Jags. They're at home on Sunday against the Saints. And to tell you the truth, we don't know what the Saints can do from week to week, so I'm not going to say they can't win that game at home. That's the season right there. If you can beat the Saints on Sunday this week, you have Jacksonville after that before the bye, and then you can put yourself back to 4-4, and now you salvage potentially, hey, Russell Wilson, him, he'll come back early. Maybe he's back for the Green Bay game. Who knows? But they have to beat the Saints next week. For Pittsburgh, even though it was a win, it wasn't like the win from the week prior. Again, as I mentioned against that Denver game, Roethlisberger looked awesome. This was the different type of Steeler team, but it was the same Pittsburgh offense. They just didn't do a hell of a lot, and I still don't think that when it all look, maybe they squeak into the playoffs because they're well coached, and they have T.J. Watt on defense, but they have a small window of margin, and that's a very tough AFC North now. Because now the Bengals are in the mix. So
now I have the Bengals as the 10th team in my power rankings, Greg. I mean, it's hard for me to believe, but I have the Bengals and the Browns as top 13 teams. Yeah, I have the Steelers as the worst team in the AFC North.
I agree.
We talk so much about the NFC West. The AFC North has become now. Look, I don't expect the Bengals to keep it up, but they are certainly not what everybody thought they were, which was a 4-win team about to get their coach fired. They've already matched last season's win total. They've already doubled 2 years ago's win total, and they have a good quarterback, a really good quarterback. Yep. So that takes you, and he's a cocky kid who instills confidence in those around him. Bengals are a threat. They're no pushover. They're a team that's going to be 8-9, 7-10, but you don't want to play them.
Who was that?
The
Oh,
Bengals.
that's not this year.
No, I think it is this year.
No. I think you're
I do.
undervaluing them.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
the
I think
Bengals.
you're
I think
nuts.
the Bengals are a playoff team.
Oh, come on.
Yes,
Come on.
I do.
I think they're an 8-9, 9-win team. You don't want to 8-9, 7-10 team. You don't want to play. You think they're going to the playoffs in the AFC? I could name 7 teams better than them off the top of my head. Right now, they're playing well, but you got to look at who they beat. I mean, they beat up on teams that are not going to the playoffs.
Well, they took the Packers to overtime.
Sure. What are they going to do when they play the Ravens and the Browns? What are they going to do?
I think they're gonna hold their own. I do.
Okay.
I think
I think they're going to hold their own.
Which means I think that they're going to win and lose.
But they're going to lose too many.
No, I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go 1-3. I think they'll go 2-2.
Okay, then you're right. Yeah. Then you can talk about a playoff team. But I mean, to me, they're the third best team in that division right now. I have them 10 because of you got to respect them on what they've done. Sure. But when the schedule gets hard, I think they're the third best team in that division. And there's no shame in that. I think that's a step in the right direction for a young coach and a young quarterback. But asking them to be a playoffs team is skipping a step in the process.
I think the major question I have is that head coach. Is that I don't know how good or bad their coaching is going to be when you do have to step up in competition and play in those big games. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. All we've seen are bad records and bad play as a history. We've seen a lot of losses in one possession games prior to this season. It's changing, and I'm willing to give Taylor the benefit of the doubt because it's changing. We've seen a lot of coaches in the history of the NFL that have started off really bad for the first few years because they've built teams from the ground up, and then they become good coaches. I'm not saying he's Bill Belichick. The point is that now he's got good talent around him. They've got a much better defense than people want to give them credit for. And they also have, as you mentioned, they have an elite level quarterback. They've got something that not many teams have, and he is just going to keep getting better. And they've got weapons at receiver. They've got a weapon in the backfield. They are definitely, in my mind, for real. But until they do knock off at least a good team or two along the way, there's still going to be questions. And I completely understand where you're coming from. Speaking of Cleveland and that division, so what a difference that Cleveland offense is when you take out a couple of their offensive linemen. And then you don't run the football effectively. It doesn't even look like they attempted to run the football as much. It was like, Kareem Hunt would get like 2 yards and then he'd go pass, and then he'd go back to Kareem Hunt and he'd get 2 yards and he'd go pass. It's like they didn't just try to hammer the game in the running game like they always have, because I felt they just didn't think they'd be successful with it. So I'm going to let Baker Mayfield beat us. And I know he's got a shoulder injury, but he just does things that just, aren't you fortunate that you have this great offensive line and running game? And if you didn't, I just don't think he'd be very good.
Well, we got to mention Nick Chubb didn't play in the game.
Sure.
So it was Kareem Hunt as a lead back, which he hasn't been in 5 years. Maybe 2 or 3 games last year when Chubb was hurt, but it certainly hasn't been. That's not his profile to be a 25 carry back. So they didn't have Chubb. So they went to Hunt, and then they fell behind. I think they were losing the game, 20-0, something like that. So yeah, I mean then that running game goes away when you're down 20-0. Baker Mayfield's hurt. Look, we were just talking about the Bengals, right? And I think when it's all said and done, the Bengals will be the third best team in the AFC North. But they have a chance because the Browns are in shambles. Baker Mayfield needs an MRI. He's saying today it's up to him if he plays. No, it's his decision. No one else gets to make that decision. Well, I don't know if that's true, Baker. Like the coach and the trainers might tell you, this isn't wise for you. It isn't a 1-game season. Baker Mayfield goes out and gets hurt worse. Browns is over. Season's over. Forget it. And they were my Super Bowl pick. So they're on the fringe. I'm counting on Stefanski. I'm counting on the talent on that team to right itself. But their season could very much end in the next 2 weeks if they do something stupid.
I think what they should do is, and again, here is why you have a competent backup. They have something not a lot of teams have. A quarterback that you feel in one game can come out and help you win one game. That's Case Keenum. There's nothing wrong with Case Keenum as a one-game backup quarterback against the Denver Broncos on Thursday night. So you rest Baker Mayfield and you get him ready for the stretch after that, which you have back-to-back divisional games against Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Get him healthy, and if Baker says it's my decision, then that means it's like a pain tolerant thing. And if it is a pain tolerant thing, then you need a little rest. We're going to give you 10 more days of rest, so it's not that painful for you when you come back in 10 days against the two divisional teams. We have to. Everybody knows it in the NFL. Even though you only play 6 games within your division, you win your division first. You do that, then you move on. The Browns have got to worry first about their division, not the Denver Broncos on Thursday.
Yeah. Look, the Broncos are another team that's reeling, so I'm sure we'll get there. We should probably just go there right now.
Well, I just want to. I wanted to talk about. Might as well stick with Baltimore too, because in that Charger game, you agree with me. You watched that game. The Chargers were like, I don't know if they could have beat a college team. That was just terrible.
Yeah, it was. I'm just giving them a goose egg, basically. I'm just giving them a bye, basically.
So we agree. Yes.
Like that was unlike anything I've seen from them this year. I don't know if that was West Coast coming East Coast or whatever. I mean, I certainly didn't bother the Rams to come to the East Coast.
Yeah, I don't think so. No,
but I don't know if that was West Coast coming East Coast. It was just like, that was a very strange game. It was the fewest points the Chargers have scored in the Justin Herbert era. Brandon Staley we've applauded him on this show for being aggressive and, unconventional. Well, when you're down 24-6, you can't go for it on your own 19-yard line in the third quarter.
I told you, that guy's crazy, man. He just keeps going for it.
That's
all the time.
too much.
I know.
That's too much. That's analytics on steroids. That's too much.
Well, how did you feel about Cleveland going for it? I don't know if you were watching the whole game, but they were down. It wasn't 20-0 at the time. I think they were down 2 scores, 13-0. They had the ball like the 15. It's 4th and 4. They're going for it. But kick a field goal. What's wrong? I always believe the mantra of get points first. Once you've established those first 3 points, 4 points, 7 points, 3 points, then do whatever you want to do. But I always feel it's always best for your NFL team to score first. Get those points on the board before anything, before you start doing crazy things like going for it on 4th and 4 at the 15 when you're down 13-0.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if you saw that, but that's something that I've started to see a lot more of today in the NFL is these crazy 4th and 5 go for it at the 15 when you can kick three points. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it depends on the score and the time in the game. But yeah, generally speaking, I would 4th and 3 down 13-0 in the second quarter, I would kick it. So
all right, but let's get to your Denver because to me the number one problem has been Bridgewater. I've watched him in every one of these games. And everyone, since this losing streak, after the Jets, starting with Baltimore, and then the injury came after in that game, and he was terrible before the injury. He has not played well. His throws have been all over the place. He has not been accurate at all. And he is one of the major reasons in my mind why Denver has gone on this slide.
I agree. Totally, completely. I don't think that's to be surprised. I mean, yeah, he is what he is, and it's a bottom 10 starting quarterback.
I got a little bit of a sound thing now in my ear. I don't know if that came up somewhere. Yeah. All of a sudden, I've got like a static sound. You there? Oh, now I can't hear you. Still can't hear you now. Where is this? So I can edit this out. Where am I? 24 minutes. Still can't hear you. Yeah, something happened where all of a sudden your sound, I was hearing, you don't have like a loose wire anywhere? Everything seems like it's okay on my end. Do you want to just, well, if you call back, it's just, it shouldn't be too bad if you call right back. See if that is, unless you figure out anything else. All right, you can just call right back then. Okay, I can hear you again. And I don't hear that static. All right. Just give me your face and I'll get you started in here. Shouldn't be too long.
I hear static on my end. You don't hear it on yours?
No. I'll do a
Okay.
quick test. If I can listen. Oh shit. I can't do a quick test. Oh, I can, but then stop it. It's
It's
okay. I
fine.
think we're fine. Let me just look here. Okay. We're okay. All right. So I'll just set you up with the Bridgewater thing again.
Okay.
And I'll just edit out what I say and I'll just put in what you say. So yeah, Bridgewater, I think it's his fault.
Yeah, I don't think that's really a surprise, Greg. I mean, look, it was a nice story when the Broncos were 3-0. Teddy Bridgewater's a nice story with all he's been through to win a starting quarterback job again in the NFL. The Broncos were a paper tiger after beating the Giants, the Jets, and the Jaguars. Bridgewater kind of is what he is, a bottom 10 starting quarterback in the NFL. He's certainly not going to lift up a team if they need, a quarterback to win a game. It's not him. So this is why I was hesitant when you had them as a playoff team to start the season. I just didn't have a lot of faith in Teddy Bridgewater. The Raiders are better than I thought. And they obviously, that was a tough spot for the Broncos, right? The Raiders were going to rally to quiet the noise. That was a tough spot for the Broncos to be in. But I can't say I'm surprised that Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos have kind of fallen back to earth. I am surprised a little in the Broncos defense. I thought the Broncos defense would give you a better effort.
That's where I was coming from. I actually thought Bridgewater had the capability of being middle of the road, not bottom 10. I figured he could be, as long as he was middle of the road, and that defense played well. I was giving them that chance, but a big loss obviously was Bradley Chubb, and they've had a few other injuries. And when it's all really contingent, it's not like they have a plethora of Pro Bowlers on defense. Fangio is a mastermind, and he only needs chess piece here, there, and there. When you take out a couple of those big chess pieces, it's not so easy to be this mastermind. So I think that's been one of the bigger problems. And again, combined with the fact that Bridgewater has not played well at all. He has played like a pretty below average quarterback for the past month. And then we'll find out on Thursday, as both teams are kind of reeling, Denver and the Browns. Also, what about the Jags getting their first win?
Look, I'm not surprised by that. They're actually 4-4 in London, which that's surprising. They should just move. They should move to London.
Absolutely.
I'm not surprised by that. The Dolphins obviously were trending in a very alarming direction. I told you I thought the Jaguars, I was surprised they were 0-5. I didn't think they would be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I was surprised with their start. I think obviously with everything that's going on there with Urban Meyer, with the players, the most interesting thing I thought about that game was two things. Somehow the Jaguars hadn't kicked a field goal all season until the fourth quarter of that game. That was remarkable to me. And then number two, it didn't look like when they won the game, usually you see a bunch of players swarm the coach, maybe dump Gatorade on the coach after a losing streak, like the 20 games in a row for the Jaguars. It didn't seem, I saw Cam Robinson, the overpaid left tackle, hug Urban Meyer, but I didn't see a lot of players run over to Urban Meyer. And that maybe gave some credence in my, I might be reading too much into it, but that game maybe gave some credence into my mind that those guys really don't want Urban Meyer as their coach. To me, I was still on the boat of, well, Urban Meyer's the coach. He's getting paid at, whatever, 8 figures to be the coach. Yeah, most of your team is, other than Trevor Lawrence, is dispensable. So if you don't like the coach, you're going, not the coach. Watching that reaction, I started to maybe hinge the other way.
Well, as far as the Jags and what you feel their overall record, let's say how good they'll be by the end of the year, I think let's keep in mind for the Jags and the Jets specifically, because of their rookie quarterbacks and their first-time coaches, staff and all. I don't think it's about what they're doing now. I think it's how good will they be by the time the season's over. Will the Jags and the Jets have 5 wins each, or will they have 2 wins each?
I think that's the case for the Jets. I think the Jaguars is its very own situation because of who the coach is, a prolific winner with very short temper.
So you expected more from the Jags than the Jets because of Urban Meyer?
I definitely did, yeah. And now that they're struggling, I expect less of them because he could quit any day. Mm-hmm. We don't know how long he's in it for. So
I give him credit, though. I'm sure he had something to do with it. Everybody in the world, or most people, especially because the analysts who never think out of the box, even though that's their job, we're thinking Jags were throwing a Hail Mary on that final play.
Oh, that was brilliant. Yeah. I thought I agreed with you.
And
I totally agree.
And that to me is the difference between Urban Meyer. Because
I agree with you, but here's what I don't understand. The play before that, I think, ended with 18 seconds left, and he let it run down to 5 seconds to call timeout, which I guess is why everybody thought he was maybe that was part of some master plan to, if there's only 5 seconds left, everybody's going to assume we're throwing a Hail Mary, so they're going to drop off. But he almost ran out of time. Yeah, I mean, let's call it what it is. He let 13 seconds run off the clock, and he left himself 1 second. I mean, okay, if that guy's not touched down, if the Dolphins are smart, they don't touch the guy down, and maybe the clock runs out. I would have liked to see him call the timeout maybe with 7 seconds left. We're assuming here he knew what he was doing the whole time.
If that's the case, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe call the timeout with 7 seconds left. People are still going to think you're throwing a Hail Mary.
I'd be interested to check out his post-game press conference, and hopefully a writer asked him that question. So I'll have to check that out and see what we find out. The other overtime game was a thriller. And that was Dallas and New England. And Evan Lazar and I are recording the Pat's Probe Show today in about 45 minutes. So finally, I have an exciting game to talk about with Evan. Because the Tampa Bay game was close, but it wasn't exciting. It was boring. This was a thriller. And it was just, to me, might have been the best game of the NFL this season. How it went back and forth at the end of that game. And a couple of things we found out. First of all, from the Cowboys, they're for real now. They got a big win on the road against a quality coach team when their backs were against the wall late. They did a lot of things that they hadn't been able to do in the past. Wasn't against the Packers, wasn't against, the Buffalo Bills, but it's a step in the right direction. For the Patriots, once again, I just think they've got the right quarterback for their system. It's going to take a little bit of time, but Mac Jones is going to get it done. And they've got a good future there with Mac Jones.
I'll credit Mina Kimes from ESPN for this because she's the one who brought it to my attention, and then I looked into it. Bill Belichick's not really trusting Mac Jones yet. Like, there are some times where they're around midfield, and he is playing it a little too conservative. I get it. It's a rookie quarterback. It's the first time he's had a rookie quarterback since, 2000. But I would like to see Bill Belichick maybe trust Mac Jones a little bit more. I mean, I think we know this season isn't going anywhere. Let's see what the rookie quarterback, let's speed up his process. Let's see what he can do in those 45-yard line, fourth downs. Can he make the big play? You don't think of Bill Belichick as a conservative coach. It's actually, when I saw she said that, I was like, that can't be right. But no, she's spot on. The Belichick's been coaching a little conservatively, which a lot of coaches do with a rookie quarterback. I just didn't expect that to be a storyline around Bill Belichick.
Well, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, Evan and I. And one of the things we connected the dots with, especially me, because Evan's younger, just like you. You guys are younger than me. But the first couple of years when Bill Belichick was there with Tom Brady, he was extremely conservative. That's the way he played. He didn't go for it on fourth down at the goal line
But he's one of the people responsible for making conservative football coaching like a thing of the past.
But yes, but that's not how we started out. And maybe that's what he's doing. He's going back to when I had young old Tom Brady and I was a defensive coach. We were going to win close games and we were going to win with our special teams. And I wasn't going to put my team in a bad position, making, crazy calls. That's the only thing that I could think of why he's being conservative again. I'm just going to go back to how I coached Tom Brady. And it worked then, and I'm going to do the same thing with Mac Jones. So it's the only thing I could think of. But anyway, big win for Dallas because right now it is clearly all Dallas in the NFC East.
Yeah, I mean, that division's over. I want to see Trevon Diggs on offense. That's what I want to see.
Breakout candidate, defensive player of the year for the first 6 games.
7 interceptions, an interception in 6 straight games, 2 touchdowns. Can we get this guy at receiver for a couple plays like the old Dion Sanders? This guy is electric with the ball in his hands. Woo! No, I love it. I think he's fun to watch. I've seen him now in person because I was in Dallas for the Giants game. Unbelievable ball skills. Dak Prescott, no signs whatsoever of the injury from last year, though. Now he has the right calf strain, which is worth monitoring. Good time for the Cowboys bye, from what I gather from talking to medical people who know right calf strains. He should probably be okay in 2 weeks. And look, the Cowboys defense, I said it last week, I'll say it again. When you're a turnover-driven defense, it's a risky proposition because those can dry up at any moment. But right now they're riding the high. And I mean, they look like, I don't know, probably the third best team in the NFC. That's what I would say right now.
Behind.
If you're asking me right now, I would say the Cardinals.
Packers.
The Packers. And then I would put the Cowboys right there with the
Rams.
With the Rams and the Bucks.
I'd probably put the Cowboys right there with okay, I see where you're coming from. I still have them 5th, but I could see where you're coming from.
There's a very fine line between those 5 teams. I think it's Cardinals 1, Packers 2, and then 3, 4, 5, or jump them however you want.
And maybe they won't need the turnovers as much when they get Dexter Lawrence back.
DeMarcus
Lawrence back. That'll help
Yeah.
them out tremendously when they get their best defensive player back. So maybe
Yeah.
they won't need to rely on the turnovers as much. But yeah, absolutely, because Washington again just looks like, okay, the defense is just not anywhere near what everybody expected. The Eagles are the Eagles, and the Giants are the Giants. It's getting pretty ugly. Giant fans must be pretty irate at this point.
Yeah, I mean they're either apathetic or irate. I don't know which is worse. That's just it is what it is. They are it's a lost cause. They're gonna fire the GM. They're gonna have to make a decision on the coach and the quarterback.
What do you
It's
think
just
about the coach?
I think you can't change coaches every 2 years. They gave McAdoo 2 years. They gave Shermer 2 years. You can't. I
You
wouldn't
think
give
he's
Joe
you think
Judge
he deserves more time?
I think he's I don't I haven't been impressed with him on Sundays. I am impressed with him the other 6 days of the year plus the off season. So I would give him more time. Now look, I'm certainly not going to sit up here and say he's the answer,
Sure.
but I don't think you pull the trigger with him as fast as it was very clear to me that Pat Shermer, the job was too big for Pat Shermer, who I think is a great play caller. But the job was too big for him. I don't think the job is too big for Joe Judge, so I think you got to let him grow into it. I know for a fact the Giants kind of regret not letting Ben McAdoo grow into the job, so I don't know that you can can another first-time young head coach.
And the quarterback.
The quarterback, I mean, look, I've been impressed with him so far this season. He had 4 turnovers on Sunday. I put almost no blame on him for that. The Giants' offensive line was, turnstiles.
Yeah.
They played without Barkley, without Tony, without Galladay. Look, I mean, all these quarterbacks, even the great ones, if they have no protection, they're playing hot potato. Get the
Baker
ball out of my
Mayfield.
hand. Get the ball out of my hand as quickly as possible. So I mean, look, would you like Daniel Jones to have better ball security? Sure. But it's very clear he has zero faith in his receivers to get open and as currently constituted with the injuries and in his offensive line to protect him. So he's going to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. And an aggressive defense like the Rams is going to jump routes. It's really that simple. I talked about throwing out a game for the Chargers. I'm going to throw out that game for Daniel Jones.
And here's the other thing, too, is when you spend a top 5 pick on a running back, that player is obviously then going to be the focal point of your offense, and he has not been there, except one game against the Saints this year since his rookie season. So
talking about Saquon.
Yeah. So the offense revolves around Saquon, and he hasn't been there. Again, Saints game only since his rookie season. And
no, he had 1,000 yards his second year. I mean, if people forget, he had a pretty good second year. But it is what it is now. He has missed 18 games in the last 3 seasons. I mean, that's too many.
It's really actually pretty quick as far as his career is kind of going pretty fast all of a sudden. You can't even, what is this, year 5?
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's not going to do anything this year because it's his injury, second, it's his first year back from injury. So it's just a wash until next year.
I mean, I don't know. I agree with you now, but I thought after the Saints game, I said, okay, he looks like himself. He's about to take off. And then he rolled his ankle and, it is what it is.
Yep. Okay. So then, Packers, they get the win over the Bears. I actually was impressed with Fields. There is just look, it's his team now, and it deserves to be. If I'm a Bears fan, I feel pretty good. I think they've got their quarterback. They just need to, like every team that has a young quarterback that's rebuilding, they just have to make sure that they surround him with some good players. I said it before the season began, and I even it reflected that on my fantasy teams that I felt that Khalil Herbert was a nice little late round pick for them. And so even though Montgomery went down, I don't think they miss a whole lot because I think Herbert's going to be a good running back in this league, but they have to, this is a team that hasn't built a good offensive line in forever. But for an organization that hasn't had a quarterback, like a real franchise quarterback, like ever, I think they've got one.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'm ready to go there. Yeah, I think the world is higher on Fields than I am. But look, I think they're going to do to him what the Giants did to Jones, what the Jets did to Darnold. They're going to take his rookie year, which is more promising than not, and they're going to fire his coach and they're going to fire his offensive coordinator. And basically, they're going to say, your first year's a wash, go learn a new system, in which case your second year becomes your first year. It's just a situation I don't really like. I wouldn't have my GM and my coach draft a quarterback when they're on the hot seat. Like it just
Yeah.
it screws up all the timing. It screwed up Darnold. It screwed up Jones. Look, I mean,
But they did it.
I'll flip. I mean, look, I guess it's worked for other guys. I guess it worked for Mayfield. It's working for Justin Herbert. I think it doesn't work more than it works. So I think that's probably where we're headed. The Bears were what, an 8-8 team last year that snuck into the playoffs. That's probably what they are again.
I agree.
And to me, if I'm Bears fans or I'm the Bears owner, that's not good enough.
But you're not, and we're not, and the fans are not, and that's if that was the case, he wouldn't have, the GM would have been out this offseason, so would have Nagy. But if they go back and even show that they're a 500 team, which I think they're going to, or maybe they're the 7th team in the playoffs again, then I don't see how the owner is going to get rid of him now. So I just think this is it. I think, and look, I don't want to sit there and there's no question that Nagy and Pace, especially Pace, has had their opportunities. But if Nagy can actually get the Bears back to the playoffs somehow, I don't care how he does it, I'm willing to give him. I'm willing to say there's a lot. I've seen a lot worse coaches. Let's just put it that way. And maybe now, even though it didn't work with Trubisky, maybe this can work with Fields. So we'll see. And look, I'm not trying to sit there and tell you that I like Fields the way that a lot of these other analysts like him, because I know they go goo goo and gaga for some of these guys like Fields. I'm not there yet, but I just think that he's got talent. And I think if he can be surrounded with that talent, I think he has an opportunity to be a good quarterback. I don't know if he can be elite, but I know he could be good. Meanwhile, on it was the which game was I trying to get to next? I wanted to get to the let's talk about trying to think which one it was I specifically wanted to go with in here. Let me see if it's here. Game that I want to talk about. Let's talk now about the other crazy overtime game, because you brought up his name, and that was Sam Darnold and the Panthers and the Vikings. And you asked me this question a few weeks ago when Darnold got off to the great start, and whether or not I had changed my mind. And I told you, no, I did not. And this is why. You want to give him credit for making those throws late to get the team in overtime. Okay, fine. He had a 4th and whatever, big throw down the middle, big throw to get them into the end zone later, eventually, and they almost stole the game. But man, once again, if you take out Christian, this is not a coincidence that with McCaffrey out of the game, ever since then, Sam Darnold looks like the old Sam Darnold. And he doesn't have a good offensive line. His offensive line is not much better than what he's dealt with the Jets. The difference is
definitely true. Yeah.
The difference is he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. When he doesn't have that, he reverts back to the old Sam Darnold. And it's just, this is going to be a big decision for Carolina if this does not change. If he plays good, then he plays bad, then he plays good, then he plays bad. What do you do? Do you give him, is he your quarterback again in 2022? Or do you have to try to find a quarterback?
I mean, they also have this decision with, I mean, it's not really a decision, but Christian McCaffrey, man, you want to hammer Saquon for not staying healthy. Christian McCaffrey already got the big contract and can't stay healthy. And they mismanaged that situation. There's no two ways about it. They to put him on IR after he already missed 2 games as they thought he'd be back sooner. But I always laugh, Greg, when Pete Carroll said it about Russell Wilson. Joe Judge says it about some of his guys. Like, he's an all-time healer. He's a quick healer. I mean, we get it. People's bodies don't all heal the same way. Christian McCaffrey is a slow healer. He is a slow healer. Look, I mean, they go as he goes. You're right. You're asking me now with 11 games left, I would say upgrade the offensive line and see if you could get more good than bad out of Sam Darnold, because you gave up a lot to get Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
so
I agree. That's that I would do that first because they've already been, they go after, because look, they could have drafted a quarterback. They made the decision.
Correct.
The Jets decided, we don't want Darnold, we want a new quarterback. Carolina said, we'll take Sam Darnold. We're not going to go after one of these quarterbacks.
And then they drafted J.C. Horn, and then they tripled down on cornerbacks by trading for C.J. Henderson and Stephen Gilmore.
Yes. So it does appear that, okay, maybe we fix the offensive line in the offseason, and we should be okay. If Christian McCaffrey is healthy, then we should be okay. And I agree. I think that's the way they're going to go, because I think that's the way they have to go, because they, like you said, they have kind of already played that hand. Because if you're not going to draft one of the quarterbacks in the 2021 draft, why would you draft one in the 2022 draft when right now I think you're looking at Sam Howell and maybe Pickett from Pittsburgh? And those guys, Howell I think has got first-round talent. I don't know how much first-round talent Pickett has yet. But
you're forgetting the Liberty kid who everybody loves.
Yeah, to me, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go Willis. I don't want to know if I want to go that far. I know when I'm willing to wait and see how that plays out. I've seen him throw the football, and I don't see it. But anyway, fact is, this is not the same quarterback class. So if you didn't do it in 2021, you're not doing it next year. And is it a surprise that Christian McCaffrey has been a slow healer and has been banged up when you see how small he is? He is a small dude.
But Saquon Barkley, you were just saying the same thing about Saquon Barkley, and he is a big dude.
Agreed.
So,
that's the one thing when
if anybody could figure out injuries, they'd be a zillionaire.
When I talked about Christian McCaffrey in his draft year, I remember telling Dan Shanka, I think Christian McCaffrey talent-wise is the best player in the draft. But the reason why he's not going to get drafted that way, 2 reasons. 1, he's a running back. And 2, he's not built. He's not big enough. It's like knew, sort of like a quarterback. It's like Kyler Murray. What's great about Kyler Murray is you notice every time before he's about to get hit, he goes down. He even goes down. He knows how to go down and not take a hit. He's really good at avoiding contact. But running backs can't do that.
He's a big guy, unlike Kyler Murray, but that was Eli Manning. The reason he made 210 consecutive starts is because anytime anybody breathed on him, he crumbled in the pocket like, oh, you're not going to hurt me.
Yeah, I know. So. That was, and by the way, for Minnesota, I was watching that game, and as bad as Sam Darnold was looking, I just couldn't believe Minnesota had let Carolina put them back in overtime. I'm like, how can you do this? Carolina was playing so poorly in the game, but Minnesota survived. And once again, Joseph, with a chance to win the game in overtime, misses the field goal, but they went ahead. I mean, that guy, it's like 50-50 proposition with him. Maybe he'll miss one, and maybe he'll make a 53-yarder to send you to overtime. It's crazy. I don't know if that's the way you want to live life as a field goal kicker. But it is what it is. Other than that, Tampa Bay won again, and life is the way it is. Being a Tampa Bay fan and being spoiled to have Tom Brady. I just, Bruce Arians is a really good football coach, but I just wonder how much does he have a big enough ego, or does he realize how lucky he is?
I gather from people who know Bruce Arians, he's not a big ego guy. So I think he's well aware of that. And some people believe you pay your dues long enough. He was an assistant for a long time. He only got a chance to be a head coach because his buddy Chuck Pagano got sick. So he paid his dues, and karma gets rewarded. He's by all accounts an excellent guy. So,
yeah, I think he's a really good football coach. Unfortunately, but you can't win championships without the quarterbacks. So
Yep. So yeah, I think he realizes he stepped in some doo doo there. Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And because look,
Yep.
he's going for it there
Yeah.
at midfield on fourth down. It's like, why are you doing that? All you got to do is punt the ball, and you got to. I mean, Eagles don't have like this offense that should be able to score on you like that. But it's like, I got Tom Brady. I got to go for it. You know, and they didn't
Yep.
get it, but they still wound up winning the football game. So,
What'd you think of the taunting penalty at the end of the Eagles game?
which one was that? By who?
Uh, I forget. One of the linebackers on the Eagles got a taunting penalty on Fournette, and it was really
Was that
questionable.
the one
And
like in the beginning of the last drive?
yeah,
Okay.
and basically the Eagles never got the ball back because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I don't really, I think again, I think with officials, the thing that annoys me the most is they have to stop thing robotically and
Mhm.
understand the situation.
Yeah,
And not enough of
I
them do that.
I will say I didn't really have a problem. I know the NFL world was up in arms about it. The ones I have a problem with are like if a team is celebrating together, like guys. But when you get in another guy's face, like the Eagles guy got in Fournette's face, I really don't have a problem with it. To me, that's textbook taunting. Whether you agree that it should be a rule or not, if you want to make it not a rule, that's fine. But by the letter of the law, getting in a guy's face like that is taunting him. So I don't really have a problem with the call.
And we've seen a lot of those. So I know the one that really I can't stand, not taunting, but is the college football targeting rule. It's
Oh,
like that drives me nuts that these like really impact players, with a split second and the way it goes,
yeah,
they have to change the rule a little bit. Like I get why they're trying to do it, especially for college athletes. I'm all for
correct,
that. But once
correct.
again, go under the look at it and say, oh,
Yeah,
don't just be like, oh, wait, that's it. If you target, you're out. No, there's got to be a little wiggle room for these officials to
nuance.
not penalize them, not only for that game, but for the half the next week.
Correct. Officials in all levels of football, they've tried to make the rules so they take the nuance out and make it as cut and dry as possible, and they've ended up doing the opposite.
All right, before we go, just quickly take a look at the impact games for Week 7. We already talked Denver, Cleveland coming up on Thursday. Seattle, that New Orleans game, by the way, is on Monday Night Football. And then the Sunday night game is a big game for both teams, the Colts and the Niners, because both of those teams are trying to salvage their season. I'll tell you right now, if I'm the Niners, I have seen enough of Trey Lance. I think they should play him. And I know that's not the direction he's going to go, but I think after what I saw in the Arizona game, I think Trey Lance, I think this should be his team now because he is going to take over anyway. So you're not 5-1. You're not like you were a couple of years ago when you were running away with the playoffs. You're not going anywhere with Jimmy Garoppolo like you did a couple of years ago. So just let Trey Lance play.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's back in practice. So he's back in practice. So I guess we'll see how it goes.
And then Tampa Bay has Chicago. Taking a look at big games this week. Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Kansas City and Tennessee is a big one.
Yeah, Kansas City and Tennessee is a big one. A rematch of an AFC Championship game a few years ago. Look, Kansas City, we keep saying it's early, but it's not that early anymore. If Kansas City's going to be the 1 seed, they got to rip off 6 wins in a row at some point.
Yeah, not the way they're playing, but it could. They've got the talent, but not so far. And look, I was working like I do. I don't glue myself to every single game on Game Pass. I work while I watch. I could not. I knew I was in the third quarter of that Kansas City Washington game. I swear, I thought Washington was, I think at the point it was like 13-10 Washington, I think. Something like that. I thought they were up 24-10. I thought that game was like, because Kansas City looked so bad and they kept turning the ball over. And I just could not believe that was actually that close. And then once Kansas City made a couple of plays, the game was over. So they're just lucky they played a pretty below average team, or else they would have lost again. So I kind of like Tennessee right now. I know it's only Tuesday, but the way the Chiefs are playing, I expect Tennessee to pick up where they left off last night. So,
Mhm.
all right, Ryan, appreciate it. You working on anything, or are you just still following those New York Giants?
I'm working on a really interesting story. I just don't want to give it away just yet, but I
Okay.
am working on a really interesting story for Post Sports Plus, our subscription site. So hopefully it'll draw some people in because I think it has larger than Giants appeal. So
Well, good. Good for you to preoccupy your brain with more than New York Giant football. So you need that. All right, Ryan, we'll talk to you again next week as we recap week 7 in the NFL. We'll get your picks later in the week, and I appreciate your time as always.
all right, sounds good. Thanks, Greg.